Fire them up. That's what we do here at the Andrew Gosser Show. We fire them up right here on 103.9 WYAB. We're streaming live on Rumble, X, YouTube. No one cares about Facebook and the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is 103.9 WYAB, please help us grow the station, grow the channel, like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on X. It's just at Andrew Gosser, ANDREW GASSER on X, and you can see all the stories that I'm using. And I'd appreciate that. If you want to be part of the program today, I think it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a little bit different. Number 601-879-0002. Text line is open. 601-879-5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, it is standard, ladies and gentlemen. It is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he surely also reap. And we're reaping what we're sowing in the U.S. Senate right now. There's all sorts of craziness kicking off. And I was listening to the Mike Madison show. I always listen to like the first few minutes of what he says because I do appreciate his opinion. Imagine that, Andrew Gosser listening to somebody who he doesn't necessarily agree with. And he had a really valid point. And I realize I'm going to irritate some conservatives when I say this, but how can you hope to change out a senator when you can't even change out a county board member? That was the gist of what Mike Madison was saying. He goes, everybody just rubber stamps Republican because the other side's worse. People were upset. Andy, you voted for Cindy Hyde-Smith. We had no one really challenging her. A viable candidate. We don't do a good job of building the bench. We all want to start off at world star level. We all want to start off at the top. Don't go up and climb up through the ranks. And then there are some who actually do a really great job of that. They grow up through the ranks. But then they just want more and more and more, and they want to move faster than the political climate allows for. And it's absolutely brutal, brutal deal. I couldn't help but notice that Cindy Hyde-Smith noted, and it should be appreciated and celebrated, that today is the 4th anniversary of the Dobbs decision. Mississippi leading the way. It's been 4 years. It's about time for us to lead another one. And I liked it, and I supported that. But I asked her a question: when are you going to start acting on the Save America Act? Which is what so many Republicans really want. I'm not talking MAGA types. I'm not talking, Tea Party types. I'm talking Republicans, and quite frankly, many Democrats. Over 76% of Democrats, over 77% of Black African American males support the Save America Act. Oh yeah, everybody's starting to realize what's happening here. Listen to Representative Paula Luna today on the hills of the Capitol.
Were things with the SAVE Act right now? The president obviously said he's going to.
Well, look, I'm not going to support Senate legislation. They are intentionally putting stuff on the floor via suspension because they know that they cannot unlock the floor. I'm not the only member of Congress doing this. There are other members of Congress that largely depend on delivering for their constituency. And right now you have the Senate actively, literally spitting in the face of the American people. This is an 80-20 issue. Democrats support it. Independents support it. Republicans support it. Women, men, Black.
Yep. Members of the U.S. House are starting to block all Senate bills, which I think is a good thing. Do you know what that loser in the Senate, John Thune, did? He put the Senate on a 2-week recess. No work to be done in the United States Senate for 2 weeks. We'll get a housing bill that looks like it's going to try to help the American people, but it actually hurts the American people when you actually read the bill, what it does. It doesn't raise the standard, it lowers the standard. He put him on a 2-week break. A 2-week break, ladies and gentlemen. Your Senate's not going to be able to do anything. And you know what? This isn't coming down to what's best for the American people. This is an exercise in self-worth, self-aggrandizement. This is about self-promoting oneself as whether you're the Senate leader or whether you're just a U.S. senator who isn't happy with President Trump. There is so much more to this. You have open candidates now openly running, banking on the fact that they are going to count on illegal immigration to win election. Oh, while I'm at it, I need to put this into the intro somehow. West Texas crude oil, ladies and gentlemen. I keep a running tally of it. Yesterday was 71. Today it's 69.80. We're into the 60s. You know, this whole Iranian excursion, which we will talk about, is starting to pay dividends. It's recalibrating how the world economic system is supposed to work, not how cartels and the World Economic Forum want it to work. We're in a battle for our lives there, ladies and gentlemen. We're in a battle for our lives. But the Senate refuses to talk about the Save America Act. I respectfully asked Cindy Hyde-Smith when she was going to talk about the Save America Act. I've respectfully asked Roger Wicker when he's going to talk about the Save America Act. Many of you have asked. And so many of us are just feeling like we're being neglected. And then you listen to Mike Madison and you say, oh, yep, and we'll vote Republican because there's the lesser of two evils. And to a certain extent, I believe in that principle. I'm just being truthful with you. I would rather have President Trump than Kamala Harris. But where that calculus doesn't come into effect is locally. And I'm just sitting here watching all of this data come in about the Save America Act, how so many people want it, how many people are asking for it. And why is it that a bunch of senators are blocking the will of the American people? Even like, why can't we have a senator like Rick Scott of Florida? This is coming from Chicago Ray on X. I'm going to repost it here. Senator Rick Scott invited the President Trump to today's Senate luncheon without notifying Leader Thune in advance, and basically just said, Leader Thune, we got to get this done. I don't care if Leader Thune is ticked off at the president, and I don't care if the president is ticked off at Leader Thune. It's what's best for the people of America. And having a bunch of Somalis run into and start taking over congressional districts, they're about to take over one in Utah, of all places. I've got the video of it right here. Don't believe me, ladies and gentlemen. I always want you to trust me, but I want you to verify me. Believe me, but verify me. Listen to this. This is 2 minutes and 48 seconds of the Zorahan Mandami of Utah.
I think a lot of people were scared, shocked that a Somali American, 27 years old, Muslim, in Utah, of all places, would have the audacity to believe that he belongs in the United States Congress. This current political climate have an intersection of identities to me that are targets of this MAGA movement of President Donald Trump. And honestly, when it comes to Somali American community, I think it's like the diva within him that can't stand that we are resilient people, that we will rise.
You're a resilient people, all right? You figured out how to fraud out $19 billion worth of fraud in Minnesota alone. Another, $25 billion in fraud in California. I argue that there will be up to $1 trillion of fraud. $1 trillion of fraud by the time this all gets added up and calculated. But let's continue, good sir.
Is up.
Now, Mohammed is trying to power his win by mobilizing Salt Lake City's growing immigrant population.
The great state of Utah, our Democratic Party, has never sent somebody from that was not from the predominant faith-based community, Caucasian male, to the U.S. House or the
You evil white male, you evil white male. That's all they can say. Never mind that they've been representing Utah's best interests. Never mind that they didn't import millions of illegal voters.
U.S. Senate. And in this district where we have well over 100,000, I believe almost 120,000 people from the Latino community, we have 60,000 refugees, about 38% of this district, almost 40%, are people of color.
Okay, just listen to this part one more time and really take in what he's saying.
Now, Mohammed is trying.
And it just goes back and talks about how he is counting on the people who are immigrants, who are refugees. Just because you're an immigrant or a refugee doesn't give you the right to vote. But he's saying the quiet part out loud. We've seen this in Minnesota. We've seen this in California. And it's not too much to ask to have people have a voter ID and be a U.S. citizen to vote in a U.S. election. And in the new Gaza Strip, that is New York City, because that's what New York's going to turn into. It's going to turn into a Gaza. You're seeing where you don't have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in local elections. Good morning, Miss Carlin. They're passing rules and laws that allow them to conduct elections without being a U.S. citizen. Think about that. And then I get pulled aside by senior political officials saying, Andrew, you're focusing on local elections too much. Yeah, because I know that's where the parties won and lost. If you have a board of county supervisors all singing from the same hymnal, from the same sheet of music, saying this is what we want, then guess what? It normally happens. But you get some people in there a little bit limp-wristed, a little bit weak, no spine, no ability to really take leadership. They'll talk about it in their campaign speech, and they'll be on their campaign poster. They'll have a commercial. They might even be advertising on YouTube or WYAB. Be a great place to advertise on WYAB. But they'll sit there and they'll have it all. But when it comes time, when the chips are down, when it's time to roll up the sleeves and get to work, nah, they're not there. They're not there. Good morning, Bruce. You know, everybody wants to be a lion until it's time to do lion things. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYB. We'll be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. 601-879-0002 is the number. Lots to say on the Save America Act. I think it is the quintessential issue in American politics today. Do we want to completely reset the system and flood it full of immigrants and change the way the United States has been, has grown up, has developed into? Or do we want to keep it the way it is? Not saying that it doesn't need changes, but I certainly don't want to flood it full of illegal immigrants who then somehow end up getting the right to vote. This is breaking 37 minutes ago from Nick Sordor on X, and I will go ahead and reshare that so everybody can see where I'm coming from. The Supreme Court has ruled President Trump can end temporary protected status, TPS, for Haitians in our country, as well as some Jordanians as well, is what I've heard. The people of the towns like Springfield, Ohio, will finally get their towns back. Yep. We remember what happened in that Springfield, Ohio, where all the Haitians were eating the dogs, the cats, the geese, the ducks. And it's temporary protected status. How long is temporary? How long is temporary? You tell me. I think it's a lot. Temporary is not 20 years. Temporary is certainly not 20 years. We need to start cleaning up our cities and our towns, our small towns. We have some of those issues here in Mississippi. We've seen some of them. We need to clean them up, and we need to get back to what made America so awesome again. Having a love for our country is critical. Speaking of love of country, is anybody going to go watch the U.S. men's national team today? They play their third game in the group stage, and there's been really great support for the U.S. men's national team. They're performing really good in the World Cup, which is shocking. In my 54 years of life, I've never seen a U.S. men's national team perform this good. I don't think I've had this much excitement since 1994, although the Landon Donovan goal was pretty sweet. You would think, before I get to this other story, I have a tie into the Save America Act. You would think that Republicans would start having their own voter ID laws. Republican Ohio Governor Mike DeWine vetoes bill requiring photo ID to mail-in vote. Mail-in voting is a source of fraud. It is the biggest source of fraud in American politics. No other countries in the world allow voter or mail-in voting. Now, we're not saying that we're taking mail-in voters away from our veterans, our people who are assigned overseas, and we're not taking away anybody's right to vote. But this just blanket mass mailing out of vote ballots to vote, whether you ask for it or not, it's got to stop. No, by the way, you should have an ID to do that. Perfect example is what happened in LA. They're finding more and more dead people voted in LA than people won't care to admit. 29 people registered to vote from a parking lot with a porta potty. Make it make sense. It doesn't. On Wednesday, Governor Mike DeWine vetoed House Bill 472, rejecting Republican legislation that would have required mail-in voters to provide a photo identification beginning in 2027. Not even 2026, but 2027. As a Republican, I would have been ticked off it wasn't this year. And Mike DeWine is one of these blue blood establishment Democrat or Republican. Well, he kind of is a Democrat, but I digress. One of these Republicans. I worked with him in the House when he was a House member, trying to get some space stuff pushed through. The GOP majority legislator has fast-tracked the heavily amended bill before the summer recess, transforming the legislation originally intended to waive ID fees for the homeless residents into a mandate requiring mail-in voters to submit a photo identification. Yeah, you get the free ID, you take a copy of it, you put it in your mail-in vote. This isn't rocket science. Of course, the League of Women Voters is exalted and happy, and the League of Women Voters is supposed to be nonpartisan. They're absolutely happy that this happened. And then, of course, Republicans in the state house and the state senate can't understand what the governor's doing. I'm telling you what, they have us all siloed out so perfectly. I pointed this out. Brother Rick's pointed it out. Mike Madison pointed it out. Kim Wade has pointed it out. Currently, Ohio requires photo ID only for in-person voting and on election day ballots. Well, hell, how much easier would it be? You know what? You set up your own operation. We try to get people to go vote in person. They're going to have ID. We just go get a bunch of ballots printed out and mail them in from set addresses, and we don't need an ID. How is this? How is this even making sense? These are people who are supposed to be quote unquote intelligent. They're supposed to have the common sense to see this, and they're just pitting us against each other in ways that shouldn't do it. Shouldn't be happening. We've got way too much in common. We can disagree internally as a nation, but when we start importing voters and they start aligning with one side that was losing, the Democrats, and now they're no longer Democrats, but they're Democratic socialists. What's not being reported is the schism right now inside the Democrat Party between the unorthodox Democrat socialist communists like AOC and these three new Zoran Mandami firebrands, and the traditional Democrat. And it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be like a realigning like we've never seen before. The Overton window is shifting further and further to the left. And please do not try to come over here and compare grandma, grandpa, Tea Partiers, or MAGA patriots to these Democrat socialists, to these groups that are so radically aligned with the far left, like the LGBTQ activists in Amarillo, Texas, assaulting two Christian men. Yeah, I've got that story coming up. I got some audio. I can't play it. I wish I could. It would show you the true intentions of it. But this is got serious implications for all of us. And so many of us are just asleep at the wheel. We're just driving down the road to work every day. Shout out to the blue collar crew out there clanging and banging on whatever blue collar job it is that you do. You know, you're just trying to make ends meet and provide a good life for your family. But unfortunately, this ugly thing called politics is becoming more and more prevalent. And by us manipulating the Constitution and changing the laws, it's getting harder and harder to have influence. Unless you're a big pharmaceutical company or a big corporation, then you have all the influence you need. And when we get back from this commercial break, I'll talk to you about it. This is the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. It's the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. Sometimes texters just send me pictures and stuff like that, and it's so good. This was sent to me by unknown texter, but it's coming from Gunther Eagleman, and it's called One and the Same. Tell me, who is pushing socialism in America? Who is pushing socialism in Canada? It's the same group of people who pushed socialism back in 1945. Who's pushing gun control in America? Who's pushing gun control in Canada? It's the same group of people who are pushing gun control back in 1945. Now, this is the one that could be kind of contested a little bit. Who's got control of the media in America? Who's got control of the media in Canada? And who had control of the media back in 1945? And what by control, I'm talking the majority of control. Now, back in 1945, the liberals or the Nazis in Germany had total control of the media. Today, even though the liberal and the democratic socialists in America and in Canada have control of the media, we still have free speech, thank God. We still have freedom outposts like WYAB. We still have places like Rumble and X where we can communicate, where we don't get fed all this Operation Mockingbird BS. Who's pushing for censorship in America? Who's pushing for censorship in Canada? That same group of people who were pushing for censorship in Germany back in 1945. Do you know that the Germans just outlawed a movie in Germany because they said it was too right-wing? It had absolutely no traction at all, and now it's the #1 show in Germany. Germany also says that air conditioning is bad for you. There was watching Europeans react to America for the first time, you get to see all sorts of great stuff. Rick, you're trying to get me in trouble, man. You're trying to get me in trouble. Let's continue. Who's pushing for abortion in America? Who's pushing for abortion and euthanasia in Canada? Who was pushing for abortion and euthanasia back in 1945? You see the connection here. Who's pushing for worship of the government? The government will take care of us in America. The same people who are saying the government will take care of us in Canada. Just like the Nazis were promising to take care of you back in 1945. Now, here's the big one. Who is encouraging violence in America? Who's encouraging violence in Canada? The same people who were encouraging violence back in Nazi Germany in 1945, ladies and gentlemen. Take it to the bank. I had another story just come to me. A Louisiana pastor, a man of the cloth, a man of God, had some young buck roll up and say that he was going to rape and do some stuff to his wife and kids. Well, that pastor took care of business, and people are saying he shouldn't be a pastor anymore. Yeah, he should. He defended his family. That's what a man is supposed to do. Men, that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to go out there looking for a fight, but when someone comes rocking up on your door saying they're going to do something to your daughter, you best believe you need to take care and handle your business if they're going to attempt to do that stuff. History is repeating itself. I can't play the video of that pastor, but I did repost it on X. I did do that. And then I've got the bookmarked story right here because everybody's like, the LGBTQ community is peaceful. Radical LGBTQ activists and a Pride Month event in Amarillo, Texas, caught on camera assaulting 2 Christian men. The activists were surrounded and tackled one of the Christian men to the ground, injuring his neck. When police arrived, this is where it gets bad. They come sit there, ruck up, and immediately go to violence. When police arrived, they betrayed the injured Christian man, claiming the Pride event was a closed event, and despite being free and open to the public. So if we're having a closed event and someone gets shot there, the law doesn't apply because it's a closed event. If someone gets lynched, it's no crime because it's a closed event. It's absolutely insane what's going on with our society today. And I haven't said this in a few days, but I'll stay to it. I think we got 13 days left of normal life before we become a post-truth society. Andrew, what's a post-truth society? A post-truth society is where you can't tell what's real and what's fake anymore on the internet or in life in general. Where there's been such a crossover. We're seeing it in media, in movie making. That there's this guy who got fired from Pixar. I've got it saved somewhere in the stack of stuff. He got fired from Pixar for being straight and just a normal dude. He wasn't pushing the LGBTQ agenda at Disney, and you know how Disney loves to shove that stuff down your son's and daughter's throat. He came out with a new 1.5-minute short called The Adventures of Mary Sue. And you would have thought it came from Pixar or Disney itself. It is really good. It's 1 minute and 25 seconds long, but it is so funny. And it's rated G. Shout out to WDW Pro for posting that, and I'll try to look it up in the break. But we're sitting here being carefully conditioned not to believe our eyes, not to believe what's happening in front of us, just to go along. The water's warm. Don't pay attention. Just be a good, compliant little American citizen. The riots that are going down the street from you, don't pay attention to that. That's not real. The war in Iran isn't bad. You're still getting your Arby's, your Pizza Hut. You're still getting to go to the Neshoba County Fair. We don't have the same problems that New York has, so we don't need to worry about it. Everybody knows that they're playing Sharia, the call to prayer now in Times Square. But in Houston, they had a parade of I would say thousands, actually, of women in full burqas marching down, wanting more rights for Islam in America. We're not an Islamic country, but we are being invaded. Andrew, you're being difficult and rough. You're not telling the whole truth. But what is it? When Christian men get beat up, when Christian pastors get attacked or have to defend their family from crazy people, when our school system, our education system sneers at what gives us the public trust and confidence society that we have, that was given to us by our forefathers, what are we supposed to think? It's just a circle of life. Put on Simba, Lion King. What? And this is, again, Angie, you always bring it back to getting involved locally. Yes, I do. Because in the grand scheme of things, for you to do something big, you either have to build up the street cred over time, which is something that this society doesn't like to do. No one wants to put in the time, earn their stripes. We just want to go from level 0 to level 200 instantaneously with a magical mana power up. Let's see what goes on here. Hey, go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, man. So just listen to your show this morning, and you're talking about how we're being invaded. And I don't think everybody understands what exactly you mean. They don't need 51%. There's a country over in Europe, but I don't remember exactly which one it is. I remember the story, so just bear with me. But they have about 19% of the population now, and they're mainly Indians. Anyway, they have come together and they have sent letters to their Congress people saying, we will vote in a block. 100% vote in a block. And so, and we will vote for either party based on who's going to give us what.
Yep.
So they, with 19%, they're basically going to be able to control policy going forward, because I understand 19 is not 51. I get that, but the way politics works, there's a big enough group that they can influence every election.
Rick,
So,
Rick, let's be truthful about this. Let's be truthful about this. The primary is where the election is won and lost in most elections, because you've got all the brain dead Republicans who are going to vote red no matter what. You've got all the brain dead Democrats who are going to vote blue no matter who. It's the fights in the primaries where this thing really gets settled, and we're not paying attention to it. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I agree with you. There's some people who don't even know what the party stands for. They say that's what my daddy did, and so
that drives me nuts.
That's what they do. So, but what I'm saying is, the borders matter, and it doesn't take a large population change to affect everything. And once they get just enough control where they can manipulate policy, well, which way do you think policy is going to go? It's going to go towards them and not the American people. So we're not far from losing.
Well,
we already lost New York. New York is gone.
Oh, it's gone, dude. It is so far gone. I've got a cousin who lives there, and she can't even recognize it. And I told her to move out 4 or 5 years ago, and now she's regretting staying there, dude.
And see, that's the problem. You got Americans leaving because they're running, which I don't blame them. I'm just saying that's a fact. They're leaving, and you've got more and more immigrants coming in. Okay, so you got a rising tide and a fleeting storm. It's just the way it is.
Yep, she can't go out and walk the streets like she used to. I mean, she took my kids to New York a couple times. Stayed with my kids stayed with their cousin, and it's just a completely different place. And if we don't realize it and start taking it back through the ballot box, it's going to go kinetic. It's going to turn violent. It's just a matter of time.
And before it goes kinetic, we're going to let them pass laws to take all of our kinetics.
Yeah, yep. It's like you got Somaliland, and now you've got New Somalia over here in the Western Hemisphere. It's beyond me. Brother, I'll give you the last word. I'm up against a commercial break.
Hey, man, doing a great job. Y'all just pay attention, and things matter. Numbers matter. Small numbers matter.
It's all about that 1%, man. It really is.
I'm going.
Thank you, Brother Rick. That was Brother Rick on the Andrew Gosser Show. We're going to take our last commercial break of the first hour. We'll be right back. Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB. Remember when we used to set our radio alarms back in the day and wake up to music or to the news or whatever? And sometimes, your brother or your sister would wake up earlier than you and it'd be a different song or a different, maybe it was like I had the nuclear bomb alert go off, the one boop, boop, really loud, wake everybody up in the house. Imagine waking up to something like this every morning. Every morning. Oh my goodness. Andy, you're just being hateful. You're just being disrespectful. Well, when was that? If you guessed Brooklyn, New York at 5 o'clock this morning today, you would be right, fam. And people texting me telling me I'm crazy. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I know exactly what I'm talking about. It's what the algorithm feeds you. And what does it feed me right after this? Just try to show you how they try to get you to look at something else. Don't pay attention to the invasion over in New York. Texas giraffe Gracie still missing nearly 2 weeks after escape as searchers fail to find her. A missing 3 to 4-year-old reticulated giraffe named Gracie is missing. Oh no. We got to worry about the animals. We got to worry about the giraffe. Guys, we are so weak. We are so easily schmoozed. We're becoming more and more dependent on a technology that finds us less and less important. It's really brutal situation we're in because there are a lot of good people who are falling for this stuff. A lot of people don't want to hear the call to prayer. I never minded the call to prayer when I was in Afghanistan. It was their culture. I knew that when the call of prayer went down for about the call of prayer in the first 20 to 30 minutes after the call of prayer, everything was going to settle down. That was a good time to get chow. But I do not expect to hear that in Brooklyn. Brooklyn Nets. I don't know which baseball team plays in Brooklyn, so I'm not even going to say one, man. I probably end up getting in more trouble over that than talking about politics. But we have lots more to talk about. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to talk about pesticides and a issue that it really hits close home to me because I feel like I've been exposed to some stuff which has induced my medical condition that I fight every day. Don't really complain about it, but every once in a while a news story pops up and I'm like, ooh, we're going to talk about that. And that's what we're going to do here on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We're at our top of the hour break. We'll be back in about 7.5 minutes. Hang tight, ladies and gentlemen. Hang tight.
Jackson.
From ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. The Supreme Court has issued rulings on 2 major immigration issues. Justices decided that the Trump administration can turn away asylum seekers at the U.S.-Mexico border. ABC News senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer.
This was a decision over a policy from the first Trump administration known as metering or turn back. It was basically an effort to shut the door at ports of entry across the southern border to prevent migrants, immigrants, from even stepping foot on U.S. soil to file a claim for asylum.
The High Court also cleared the way for the Trump administration to cancel temporary protective status for Syrians and Haitians. Advocates for Haitian immigrants urge Congress to extend TPS. The NAACP condemns what it calls a betrayal based on anti-black immigration sentiment. Help is on the way to Venezuela after the deadly earthquakes there overnight. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the first phase is the search and rescue teams deployed from Los Angeles and Virginia.
The second phase, of course, will be identifying their more longer-term and acute needs. What are the things over the long term they're going to need help with? We'll have a better assessment of that after the next 48 hours when we're on the ground and as the Venezuelan authorities get more visibility as to the level of damage.
At least 164 people are confirmed dead and nearly 1,000 injured. Europe's deadly heat wave is not letting up. The Spanish health ministry says 212 people died from the heat between Sunday and Thursday. The Federal Reserve's primary metric for gauging inflation is out. ABC's Jim Ryan.
The Fed's Board of Governors would like to see an annual inflation rate of 2% before lowering interest rates. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Index hasn't hit that mark since early 2021. And last month, inflation accelerated 4.1% over May of last year, nearly guaranteeing not a rate cut anytime soon, but an interest rate hike at the Fed's next meeting in July.
You're listening to ABC News.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team, build it sooner. Leave your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
News brought to you this hour by Lee's Old Country Store, Antiques and Collectibles, located on Highway 22 in Flora, a half mile west of 49 North.
Floodwaters are going down. Today, you still have a 30% chance for afternoon storms with a high at 90. Tonight, that chance is 30% with a low at 73. Friday, you'll have a sunny day to start to dry out with a high at 93. About the same for both Saturday and Sunday. You've got news on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis. Meanwhile, the Pearl River is still flooded and a flood warning is in effect for Jackson and Philadelphia through this afternoon. You may have heard that there was more water than normal in the Ross Barnett Reservoir, and the Pearl River Valley Water District was letting some of that out through the dam, which was expected to cause some flooding near the Pearl below the dam. When State Representative Bo Brown died, that left his seat in the Mississippi House vacant, and Governor Reeves has now set a date to fill that seat, and the seat left vacant by Representative Price Wallace, too. You're being asked to vote November 3rd with a runoff date December 1st if it is necessary. The qualifying deadline for candidates is August 20th. You may remember hearing about a shooting that happened in Claiborne County back on June 13th, where people were shooting from a red Camry that took off and led the sheriff's department officers on a chase until they crashed. All but one got away, and he ratted his buddies out. Now 3 more have been arrested, says the sheriff's department, 1 18-year-old and 2 juveniles. Mississippi will have its own cannabis hotline as the medical marijuana program in the state gets bigger, with more people on it and more people calling Mississippi Poison Control because of side effects, dosing problems, and accidental ingestion by children. That hotline will be manned by the Mississippi Poison Control Center. More news in 1 hour on 103.9 WYAB. I'm Chris Davis.
Have you ever listened to WYAB and thought, I could do that? Well, maybe you can. 103.9 WYAB, Central Mississippi's stimulating talk radio station, is looking for fresh local voices to join our on-air lineup. Are you the person everybody argues politics with at work? The one your friends say should have a radio show? Then maybe it's time to stop yelling at the dashboard and start talking into a microphone. If you're passionate about current events, politics, faith, business, sports, or just telling it like it is, we want to hear from you. Previous radio experience is helpful, but personality, authenticity, and the ability to connect with listeners matter even more. This is your chance to be heard across all of Central Mississippi. If you think you've got what it takes to host a talk show on WYAB, send us a short audio sample and tell us about yourself. Email Matt at WYAB.com. That's Matt at WYAB.com today.
Your roof is constantly exposed to the elements, battling dirt, algae, and stains. But with Watkins Construction and Roofing Roof Wash Service, you can keep it looking like new. A proprietary rooficide treatment is EPA approved, safe, and guaranteed to prevent algae from coming back for at least 2 years. No harsh chemicals, no damage, no black streaks. Just a clean, beautiful roof that lasts. Call Watkins Construction and Roofing at 601-966-8233 or visit nomoreroofstains.com today.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are the individual views and opinions of the people expressing them and do not necessarily reflect those of this radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to that short intermission between the first and second hour. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9 WYAB, where we're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on YouTube. No one cares about Facebook, but we are streaming at the mothership that is WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is 103.9 WYAB, help us grow the channel. Help us grow the station. Like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Follow me on X. You're going to want to do that. I've posted all the videos there that I talk about, all the news stories. That way you can trust me, but you can verify me too, fam. And I'm all about that. The number, if you want to be part of the program today, is 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. And someone texted me during the commercial break saying that what I was saying about Houston was a lie. When I was talking about all those women marching in burqas through downtown Houston, said it wasn't true. Well, if you take the time to go get to the X platform and just follow me on Andrew Gosser, ANDREWGASSER, the video is posted there, friends. You know, you've got these people who come out of nowhere, first-time texter, unknown texter. Oh, you're not telling the truth. You're not telling. Man, if I come out here and pop off with something that I can't back up, I'm in trouble. It's just like the dogs who voted in the California election to prevent fraud. That obscure website, the Orange County people. But I digress. Look, you want to know what this comes down to? It comes down to this. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked, for whatever one sows, one shall also reap. We are equipping these saints. Who are the saints? Y'all are the saints. I know I did that a little bit backwards, but sometimes I get off on these tangents and away I go. Fire. So I've got some stories here that I want to get to, and this is coming from Ground News. And I told you this one has got nothing to do with politics. This story, quite frankly, has a lot to do with me. Vermont is the first state to ban paraquat, a weed killer linked to Parkinson's disease. Now, I've never used paraquat on my farm, but I know I've been exposed to stuff. And, you know, Parkinson's is a real pain in the neck because some days are really good and you all hear it, and some days are really tough and you all hear that too. I'm not using it as a crutch or whining to complain about it, but when I see stuff like this, I'm kind of interested. Vermont has become the first United States to ban paraquat, the widely used herbicide, citing a potential link to Parkinson's disease, with the legislation now taking effect November 1st. So if you're a farmer and you're using paraquat in Vermont, smoke it while you got it, because November 1st, it's out of here. Despite widespread agricultural use, the U.S. Geological survey reported that more than 10 million pounds of paraquat were applied nationwide in 2018, while the European Union, United Kingdom, and China and Thailand have already banned the substance. Dude, it's so bad, China freaking banned it. What's that telling you when China bans it? Republican Vermont lawmaker and apple orchard owner Greg Burt calls paraquat a critical tool for his operation, warning the ban places farmers at a competitive disadvantage of out-of-state growers using the budget-friendly herbicide. And this is the problem with the United States of America, friends. We do not pay the real price of food. Your beef growers, your lamb growers, your produce growers, we don't get paid what our food is worth. And food is already expensive, but you'll buy that $1.59 can of Chef Boyardee ravioli. You'll wolf that down. You'll go to Walmart and buy pounds of meat that say you're buying 4 pounds when you're really only buying 3. That's why they got rid of the scales. Dan Feeman of the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which I'm not against Michael J. Fox. I'm not for Michael J. Fox. I don't necessarily agree with all his politics, but you want to talk about somebody who's putting money where his mouth is and spending his life or his earned fortune as a movie star for Parkinson's research, called the ban a significant victory that shifts the national conversation, while Vermonter Ron McConnell, who has Parkinson's, said there's no safe way to use paraquat. Well, I've got Parkinson's. I'm not sure if we should use paraquat, but we at the BA Farm don't like pesticides that, for the cackle bushes, those thistle bushes. You'll see Bernadette, Isla, and myself up until this last year out there just hand chopping them all because we know it's bad. Swiss chemical manufacturer Syngenta defended the herbicide's safety, citing more than 12,000 studies showing no peer-reviewed conclusion linking paraquat to Parkinson's disease. Well, we all know that peer-reviewed science died back in 2014 once the agencies that do all the funding started pushing political outcomes and not scientific outcomes. I've got more to this. Got the story right here. This is coming from News Picks Daily on X. News Picks Daily on X. Supreme Court rules FERPA, which is some acronym, some new law that will preempt state failure to warn claims in Roundup case. People have long claimed that Roundup possibly have links to cancer. Well, it doesn't matter because of this rule that's passed. The Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FERPA, expressly preempts state law failure to warn claims that would require Monsanto to add a cancer warning to Roundup labels beyond what the EPA already requires. We know it's bad for you, but we're going to pass a law that says we don't have to tell you that it's bad for you, and we're covered under FERPA, so that way we don't have to tell you about what's going into your food, what you're eating. Meanwhile, we'll go ahead and put all these chemicals into the seeds and into the ground to increase our yield and output, and we'll get more dependent on farming in new ways and not traditional means of farming. And then we'll go overseas where they're not using this stuff anyway and doing it cheaper because their labor is cheaper. This decision in Monsanto versus Durnell reverses a Missouri Court of Appeals ruling that ends the lawsuit brought by John Durnell, who alleged that for nearly 20 years of Roundup use caused his non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. A jury had awarded him more than $1 million on a failure to warn theory. Well, you can have a failure to warn theory all you want, but when you've got FERPA, when you've got all these politicians getting $25,000 for 4 years straight for their campaign coffers, think about that. Monsanto paid maybe 20 million, 30 million, let's call it 50 million in lobbying efforts to get this through. 50 million for billions. That's good money. I'm not saying it's ethical, but that's good money spent. 50 million for billions. The court ruled that allowing Durnell's claim to proceed would violate FERPA's express preemption clause. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the same crap that they're using with the vaccines. This is the same thing that they're doing with the vaccines. Andy, you're a Republican. You're always with the Supreme Court. Oh, am I? Does this FERPA law violate natural law? Would a person knowingly ingest something into their body if they knew it was bad for them? The answer is yes. Look at cocaine. Look at fentanyl. Look at pot. We got a new poison line just for the pot smokers out there. Little Jimmy's finding out that daddy's got gummies and he eats 5 or 6 of them because they taste good. And next thing you know, he's knocked on his butt. You know, we love drinking alcohol. And look, I'm not saying we have to completely abstain from alcohol. That's not what I'm saying here. But people abuse it all the time. Oh, I just need a shot of Fireball. Oh, I just need a little bit of my Grey Goose. A little bit of the goose. The goose is loose. Some of that 1800 tequila. And here's the pull quote from this. Because the EPA has repeatedly determined that glyphosate is not likely to cause cancer in humans, a conclusion shared by many other regulatory bodies worldwide, no cancer warning is required for Roundup labels. A state tort claim forging such a warning creates a labeling requirement that differs from the federal standard and therefore is preempted. This is like saying, everybody go get the jab, and then we'll wait to see if it's bad for you or not. And there are some people who have watched died suddenly and don't believe it. There is a slim majority of people out there like that. Oh, they'll take the jab. Government told me to do it. Oh, the Roundup's good for you. This Parquat, which is banned in all these other states, all these other countries, the European Union, the United Kingdom, China, Thailand, all have banned this. That's what really gets me. When China and Thailand ban something, you know that's got to be pretty bad. And it's linked to Parkinson's. And look, I don't know how I caught. I don't know why I caught it. There's no way to say why some people get it and some people don't. Not complaining about that one bit. But when we find stuff that is linked to causes of stuff, I do think we should, through the NIH, have a scientific investigation, not a donor specific or corporation investigation. I get in so much trouble for saying this, but we don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick fair system. We'll do enough just to keep you feeling good and uptight and rolling okay. Actually getting you feeling better, well, we don't know about that. We don't know about that. Anytime one of these stories breaks through, I like to talk about it. I know it's not necessarily on the front of everybody's mind. I know that there are a lot of people out here who listen to the show who want to eat well, asking to buy lamb, asking to buy beef, asking to buy produce that's grown naturally without any pesticides. I know that there's a group of people out there, and here's just another example of it. I will make sure that I put this on my Twitter account over the break. And when we get back, we'll be talking about some other stuff. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back.
My name is Edwin Segoli. I am a Sharia law survivor, was born in Iran, and I'm here to tell you everything that you're doing here has been done in UK and Canada. You have no idea where this halal money is going to, how they're funding these mosques, and what kind of a hell is coming towards your country right now. It's 2026. I escaped that hell years ago, and I'm seeing the same thing happening over here in the United States. You have no idea. There's 3 levels of Sharia law that is happening. Right now, it's level 1. They come in peace. They come and tell you, we just want rights. We want to be part of it. Level 2 is what's happening in the UK right now. You have 2-tier policing. You have cops who are working with Muslims right now. You have Sharia law courts over there. Now they're pushing blasphemy laws over there. And one of them is called M103. It's in Canada. People are being jailed. People are being raped in the United States, and nobody's doing anything about that because these Muslims are protected. Level 3 is what happened to my country, Iran. The hell I lived under. The apostasy laws, blasphemy laws, the hangings. These people do not change. They use taqiyya to come to your country, lie to every single one of you.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYAB. Phone call or phone number if you want to call in today is 601-879-0002. Unknown texter, Andrew, they took glyphosate out of Roundup. It no longer kills the poison oak. The company did this a while back, but the lawyers just want money. Felder Rushing said he used it for years and he's near 80. I used it, and my mom did Roundup on our farm. And Felder, John Rushing, is a guru of the flower part of agriculture taught at Mississippi State Master Gardeners Program. So obviously people have ideas and opinions on this stuff. And Mississippi State is world famous for its agriculture program. Don't want to dismiss that at all. All I'm saying is that when we have societies banning chemicals and substances because they're not good, and then we're finding links to other diseases, we need to take a look at that. At the same point, you could say, did China really ban paraquat? Or did they just say that to get us to ban it so they can still use it? You can never completely trust everything that China does. We know that. We're well aware of that. But people, I'm just letting you know that our food is not the same. It doesn't taste the same. You know, I said Twinkies the other day and got people going, and I ended up getting some pink coconut zingers. And I know how a pink coconut zinger is supposed to taste, ladies and gentlemen. It's got that frosting on the top, that you used to peel off. Then you got the pink sponge cake with the creamy middle. You all know what a zinger is, man. That is some good eats back going to school. You open up the lunchbox, and there was the pink zingers on top that mom put in there for you. Oh, you knew it was going to be a good day too. And it was a double pack. It wasn't the single wrap. You got a double. You got a double, ladies and gentlemen. So I had a pink zinger the other day, and it did not taste anything like I remembered. And people say, well, that's because you're 54 now and your taste buds have changed. Yeah, I get that, but there's certain notes and elements that you know when you're eating a good Hostess pink zinger. And I'm telling you, our food has got all sorts of chemicals and stuff in it now that we didn't have just 10 years ago. Just 10 years ago. This is not gaining a lot of traction yet. This was put out yesterday after we went off the air. Breaking: Dominion Voting drops lawsuit against Mike Lindell. The company formerly known as Dominion Voting Systems, now operating as Liberty Vote, has immediately they changed their name from Dominion, which is like overlord, overseeing, to Liberty Vote, which is freedom, America, liberty, has agreed to dismiss the $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against Mike Lindell and MyPillow with prejudice, meaning the case cannot be refiled. But that's not the only bombshell. Released alongside the news, Election Crime Bureau has unveiled what it calls historic evidence on the 2020 election. Over 800 pages, 824 filings, 2,517 citations of voter fraud and election fraud now being put out. So people are saying, oh, 2020, no evidence. There is evidence. The mainstream media just continues to bury it because they have to bury it, because there is no remedy to what they did to this country. What is the legal remedy of stealing the president of the United States of America election? What is the remedy of stealing a U.S. senator from the state of Arizona or Wisconsin or Nevada, like they did this last time? 5 years of compiled research, court records, sworn testimony, government documents, and technical forensics. What's the name of that lady who got sent to jail in Colorado because she was pointing it out, and the libs over in Colorado didn't do that, and they put her in jail to shut her up? That's the real cost of liberty and freedom. Some people taking the hit, and it's not fair and it's not right, but that's how the system works. The report is titled "The 2020 Election: An Attack Upon U.S. Critical Infrastructure." Detailed 10 alleged attack vectors involving voting systems, election records, certification processes, information control, foreign influence, and more. And I still, to this day, I can't remember who I was talking to yesterday about it, but we're sitting there watching. I was sitting there watching these election officials in Georgia, and I can't remember the county. Gwinnett County? It's Gwinnett County? Maybe. I can't, wherever Atlanta is, pulling ballots of votes out from underneath the table to count after the polls were closed. And then the mysterious pipe water leak where they had to shut down observers. And then we are the ones who get called conspiracy theorists and kooks. We'll believe anything. And then this comes out, but the damage has already been done. The damage has already been done. Anyone that ever says that there is no evidence, this is like a library. It is a historical library with 100% evidence that backs each and every claim up. And decide for yourself. I'm going to go ahead and repost that on my X account because I want to. And that's why local elections are so important. David Archie. I don't know if he had to go through some of the same stuff that President Trump went through, but our election system is due an overhaul. And if Peru, I think it was the country of Chile, not Peru. Maybe it was Peru or Chile or both. If they can count 29 million votes by hand in less than a day, in less than 12 hours, then clearly the United States can do the same thing. We're all kidding ourselves. We are all living in a false reality, an AI digital reality that's really not true. It doesn't exist. We need these ballot election machines to accurately and quickly tally the vote. No, we don't. We already pay poll workers $225 a day for the day of the election and $25 for the day before to get the training. You get the $25 for the training well before the actual poll work, and then you got the main poll worker officer who gets, I think he gets a little bit more. He or she gets a little bit more because they have to drive the ballots back and forth. But that's how that works. Now there's definitive proof, and I'll make sure I save this and keep this in the lockdown because I know people will be calling me up and say, Andy, we have no proof. Yes, we do. Well, ABC didn't report it. ABC's been sued for libel, and they've had to pay millions of dollars. Same with CBS. Our news media isn't the news media anymore. When they reversed the Smith-Mundt Act, which allowed the news media to post propaganda back in 2013, I think it was, 2014. Now we're dealing with all that craziness. And to those of you who don't believe me, here's your chance to prove me a liar. Go look up the Smith-Mundt Act and see exactly what it did. I ask the tough questions of this is just in a one-way conversation. I give homework out here at the Andrew Gosser Show. Every 8th grader in the United States should know what the Smith-Mundt Act is and what it did. Every 8th grader should know, why is the country the way it is now? Well, that's because our fathers or grandfathers and grandmothers got rid of the law that said you couldn't be a communist or a Muslim to run for office in America. You want to know why we're changing the way we are? That's why. I got somebody checking in on the show, on the chat. I want to make sure I get this open up. This is coming from Rob. I opened a can of Hormel chili last night and I had to throw it away because the chemical taste in it. Yeah, I noticed that too. With some of the sweets, some of the foods, there's a distinct tinny, metallic, chemical type taste in the food. It's not good. And, I was listening to Blake on the way in this morning. He did a great job filling in for Clay Edwards. Blake was talking about how, things are just not the same like they used to be. And he's right. He's right. Man, what a talent that kid's going to be, huh? And he decides to finally tune in and do a full-time radio gig. He's going to do great things. And there are a lot more Blake. There's only one Blake Bartlam out there, but there are a lot of Blakes out there. We just need to find and discover them and empower them and get them going down the right field of view. Get them on the right track. The more I think about it, the more I realize that our education system, and man, I didn't even get to talk about that. Let me take this break real quick. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. What?
What are you doing?
I'm on the radio. Are you coming in for Lindsay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let everybody know. You want to come in and shoot the breeze? Yeah, dude, let's do it. I'm not going to put on the camera though. Is that all right?
That's fine.
Have you heard of anything that we've been talking about?
No, what are you talking about?
We were just talking about the chemicals in our food, and we're also talking about the Lindell case, where they had Oh yeah, welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 103.9. I am joined for this last segment by Mr. Chip Matthews of the Matthews Show. Good morning, brother.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
You know, I had this on my list of things to talk about. I didn't get to it today, but it's here now, and this is coming from that stalwart of a journalism outlet, the Mississippi Free Press.
Oh yes.
You know how pure and excellent they are.
Yes. Yes.
Jackson, Pearl, and Flowood Jackson Airport Territory annexation approved. This is coming from Gracie Marion. And, you know, I'm sitting here looking at this from the aspect of what's good for Mississippi. I want Jackson to thrive. I want it to do well. But what's good for Mississippi? And this is just how the Mississippi Free Press is coaching it. The cities of Jackson, Flowood, and Pearl have ended an 8-year-long legal battle over flights to land in surrounding Jackson, Medgar, Wiley Evers International Airport in a deal that seeks each city to walk away with new additions to their respective cities. And I went through and read this, and Pearl's getting a chunk of land.
Right.
Flowood's getting a chunk of land.
Right.
And Jackson's getting a chunk of land.
Yeah.
Even though it's in Rankin County.
Well, at one time, Jackson, when they went to go build the airport, rather than go out here on 220 and fix the airport that was already in Jackson.
Yep.
Jackson paid to have the airport built where it was built back in the 70s. Okay.
See this?
It's it was Rankin County was just vast wasteland at the time. They go, we'll put the airport way out here. Now, had Jackson been better planning, you would have put the airport out there on 220. It would have been out there on 220, and all that economic growth that occurred in Flowood would have probably happened in Jackson around 220.
So this is all over economic development in and around the airport
and mistakes in the past. I mean, these are mistakes from the past in development, because you got all of that area where the old airport is in Jackson.
Yep. No one's developing that though. Nobody wants to go near there.
I mean, no, you don't, because it's a high crime area. It's right there on top of the Jackson Zoo. It's on top of the golf course. It just doesn't make any sense.
Listen to this. The terms deal allow each of the three cities to incorporate portions of the airport's land, develop it, and reap the increased tax revenue. And that's the key to it right there. Everybody wants to increase revenue, which, isn't bad, but that's like Chicago moving out to Fox River Grove and saying, we want to tax your land and you're going to send some of that to Chicago. That makes no damn sense.
Let's go backwards here. Let's go back to before the lawsuit. So the Jackson International Airport has always been referred to as in Jackson, although it sits in Rankin County, because they bought the land to do it and develop it. It was the only place in Rankin County where legally you could get a mixed drink. It was wet inside the dry county of Rankin County.
Wow.
Okay. So all these years, if Jackson had thought ahead, they could have taken the land that surrounds it now, and they could have developed that into bars and restaurants and all that. They could have had the economic welfare of all of that long ago.
Yeah. One of the commenters is saying they put it in Pearl because they thought at the time that Jackson was going to annex Pearl.
Oh, yeah. And they would have crossed the county line and gone on and on. But that doesn't make any sense. But at one time, Pearl looked like it wasn't going to be the big city. And look at Flowood. Flowood
is blowing up.
They've carved a little niche out to be more of a business district.
Yep.
Than a residential district. The residents of Flowood can keep their majority hold on that area and be the one that gets the economic boom on all of it.
It's brilliant
because they don't have any rooftops to deal with. They only have the citizens that live there to deal with.
It's brilliant city planning when you sit there. I know that was a big problem with where I lived up is we were considered a residential county. We had 316,000 people in our county with and only 11% was business and industry. So that means that the homeowners are going to be paying for all the goods and services. You're not going to have that industrial base to carry the load. I just find this as an outsider looking in. I'm new to Mississippi. Mississippi, my home state. I love it. Adopted hometown is Terry, Mississippi. Love it. Never want to leave it other than to go on a vacation or two. But when I look at this, I'm like, okay, Pearl is doing incredibly well.
Yes.
Flowood's doing incredibly well. Jackson is a hellhole.
Yes.
Why are we going to put the hellhole in charge of something that's so important in economically viable, not just to Jackson, but to Rankin County, Flowood, Pearl?
Well, what they need to look at is the decline in population inside the city limits of Jackson, and the people that are available to help run a city or run an airport or run. I mean, I don't want like what happened in Canton when we have a hairdresser running the energy department now.
Are you serious?
He's on the board. Yeah. There was a nuclear engineer who was white who wanted to get on the board and was put up by the board, and the board didn't vote him on.
A nuclear engineer.
And then there was a person that and worked for and had just retired from energy and has bought and sold energy and gone into disaster situations and set up whole cities when they needed disaster relief. Knew all about it, all about city planning on electricity. And they chose a guy that cuts hair for a living.
That's really scary.
Because they don't want you've got this thing where, like, for instance, in this lawsuit, you've got all these politicians that were bitching in this lawsuit about the black politicians were saying that the white politicians voted against things all the time for the airport, but they didn't know that they were being racist when they did it. And I'm going, you can't make that argument.
That's just crazy.
You can't say that. I mean, it's all about who is qualified to do the job. And Jackson's base of people has shrunk over the years. They don't have as many business leaders. They've left the town.
I was just talking about a 60-year tenant in Jackson, furniture company, got robbed over 16 times. This was on Kingfish's Jackson Jambalaya. He called it like they're robbing again, and the new DEI chief didn't roll out in time, and they just shut down shop.
And her answer is to spend more money
and to try to figure out why people commit crime.
And where do you get money when you can't? When everything in your state, in your part of the state, is an NGO, so it doesn't pay any property tax. It's a nonprofit, so they don't pay property tax. You don't have people living in the houses; they don't pay property tax. The government, the people that have the houses that are burned out in the community, they don't pay the property tax. They don't care if you take it.
That's just sad to me. Another commenter: the only reason Jackson didn't annex Pearl was because the judge ruled they couldn't cross the county line.
Well, that makes plenty of sense, doesn't it? If it's a natural border,
I'm trying to think about that. And again, I'm taking an out of state view on this because I'm thinking of where I came from in Chicago, in McHenry County. No,
you don't cross county lines. That's
no.
you have separate
I want the listeners out there to look up Algonquin, Illinois, and see if Algonquin, Illinois is both in Kane County and McHenry County. Someone do that, because this is serious stuff. Because this is why if this is what the judge based his ruling on, I think the judge is flawed.
Well, the deal is,
and now we get stuck with this down the road, and now we've got this giant contest. I was going to say something, but I try not to cuss. I don't do the greatest job on it, but it still doesn't make any sense to me. The airport isn't in Jackson. It shouldn't be being run by Jackson.
Correct.
There's an airport authority, Pearl. I mean, I can see Jackson having somebody on the airport authority,
right? But they wanted to make sure that they had 5 blacks, and it had to be black.
Wait, did it specifically say they had to be black?
Yes.
No.
Yes. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Man, I'm getting the beetle button rate. That's just some complete bullshit. I had to deedle myself. If they really said that they had to have 5 black people on the board, I go back to my military and combat experience. I wasn't sitting there saying, okay, I got a white dude, I got a Mexican dude, I've got 2 black dudes, I've got Asian guy over here. He's the smart one. If we got to do some serious running, we're going to get the black dudes over here. We got the white dudes over here. They're going to be the ones on the comms dude, that's just the most asinine thing I've ever heard of.
Yes, it is. Yes,
how about a content of the character and your brain power to make ethical business decisions?
I mean, I want somebody it's like, for instance, being in a combat situation. I want the best guy to go help me run through there. I don't care if he's black, white, Asian, Mexican, Indian. Indian dot, Indian woo woo. I don't care. We're going to make it through there.
Dude, we had this Nebraska country guy, big dude, Kennedy. He was like 6'3", big black dude, arms thicker than my head. And I'll tell you what, that man could shoot. And no one gave a rat's rear end about his race, his ethnicity. We don't know if he was, we assume he was straight, but no one really cared if he was gay or straight.
Right.
No one cares about that. It's just, can you make the best decision for the community? And we're seeing a lot of stuff coming in right now about the economic development and how Mississippi's booming and everything like that. And we need to make really smart decisions because as so again, from outside who's not from here, I want to keep our agriculture roots, because when this all goes south, we're going to need, the farmers are going to be the one who bail us all out.
And Benny Thompson district is nothing but a district of supposed to be food, and it's a desert.
It is. And why is it? And we can make all the racial disparaging remarks that some people want to make, but I disagree. I think it's because we don't have real leadership there saying, hey, this is how we do it.
And it's as many Republicans involved in that leadership problem as there is Democrats.
Damn right.
And if those guys that are at the state capitol and all over there at the fair today talking would tell the truth, they would show up at court when they're fighting over the airport. Both sides would show up and protect themselves and try to move things along and keep it out of the battle of a race relation situation. If the national narrative is to become what people think of Mississippi, that is what our state is allowing to happen right now.
Yep.
Our state government is allowing it to become the state that people think we are, which we know we're not.
we got to take a break real quick, but when we get back, I want to talk about that because that's just like what the Europeans are finding out about America. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. And we are back here on the Andrew Gosser Show. I've got Mr. Chip Matthews sitting across the way. He's going to be filling in for Lindsey Beckham today.
Oh, yeah. Take her ratings down.
Oh, no, they're going to go up because people are already commenting on this. You know, we're talking about racism and how you can't be a certain color and talk about race because you're not that race. This is exactly what's happening from Europe. People coming over here for the World Cup. And they're finding out that Mississippi doesn't have the problems that it says that the Mississippi Free Press saying it has.
It's depicted, Mississippi is depicted as this place where people are hanging in trees left and right.
Yep.
KKK is walking the streets. Yet you can't get the KKK unless the Southern Poverty Law Center is paying them to be out there.
And then you've got the exalted Cyclops and the Grand Wizard out there through this SLPC.
Yeah, but the reality is we have always gotten along. Even after the war, we got along because we wouldn't have survived otherwise.
Nope, we wouldn't have. And this is what social media and the media Operation Mockingbird does. It doesn't bring us together on the things we get together on. It tries to find things and rip us apart. And when it's something like this, it just fires me up to no end, Chip. It really does, because there's so much proof out there, but no one wants to go step outside of their comfort zone to go look for it.
And you look at it, Mississippi Burning and all the movies about race have always been depicted out about Mississippi because the Mississippi legislators and people don't promote how it really is here in Mississippi.
You know,
that is the reality.
Man, I need to link up with 601 Stunna. He's got a YouTube channel where he lives on the south side of Jackson. And man, I would love to do like a TikTok series with him where we just go around and show people what Mississippi's really about, because it is not the problem that our politicians on both sides of the aisle say it is.
No.
One side's afraid to talk about it and the other side's exploiting it.
The politicians promote racism in order to be in office and to stay in office and to keep more people disinterested in politics. That's why only 17% of Republicans and Democrats showed up in a primary to decide who was going to be on the ballot in November.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know I've said this over and over again. The primary is where the election is won or lost. The primary is so critical. It's why these Democrat socialists in New York, they all won their primaries. The Democrats are now having to vote for a Democrat socialist, and they don't want to.
Right. Because they believe that because they're a Democrat and because they're black, they have to.
Well,
I mean, that's what they think. In Mississippi, if you're white and you're running for office, you have to run as a Republican or you're a crazy liberal.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We're stereotyping there a little bit, but it's true. We can't come up and say, hey, this is the background that I have. This is how I feel. This is what I think my values are. This is how I want to roll. I mean, you know who the most endangered person in America and in Mississippi is?
Who would that be?
The Christian black man who's a husband.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
And a father.
Because a Democrat, a black Democrat in Mississippi is a Christian.
Yep.
A black Democratic politician is not.
Well,
that's kind of where you're at.
You got to go on a 1-for-1 basis, but I agree with that. I mean, we are the values that got us to the place where we are, and everybody's like, well, the slavery, you know, the Turkish had slavery, the Ottoman Empire had slavery, Africa still has slavery. We have more slaves in America today. They're just not black, they're women.
But nobody listening to this show is a slave.
Nope.
Or has been a slave.
Well, no. If they might have been trafficked, they might.
Okay.
The sex slavery is the real deal, but there's no one here who is. I can't believe anybody from the Civil War is alive from that, and they're not here. So, but we have all this built up animosity in history that we've got to work through. We can't keep on reliving on the old legacy. It's going to absolutely destroy us. Chip, you're going to do awesome in the next hour. We've set the table for you. Everybody, this has been the Andrew Gosser Show. He is Chip Matthews. You've been listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Take care, everybody. Be blessed. Yes, and amen. Amen.
Amen.